So in this session, we are going to see how the microservices communicates from one application to other application with the help of Spring Boot, Java, and Spring Cloud services. So basically what happens earlier, we had a monolithic approach, right? Where we used to design and develop all the application related functionality in a single application. Now, with the help of microservices, we are going to segregate into a different module based application. So all the user related stuff will be stored in a user service, order related state stored in order service. So all payment details can be stored in a different microservices. You don't need to keep everything in a single repository as it difficult to maintain the source code. So to achieve this, we need to design and develop an API gateway that will act as a single entry point, which will be having all the registry of those subcomponents of these microservices, and these microservices will be connected to the database. Either you can design a single database per microservice, or you can have a single database for all the microservices. It depends on your business requirement. So in this session, we are going to see a small demo where we will be configuring a Eureka server, which is going to register all this user service, order service, API gateway. And from there, with the help of API gateway, we will be making as a single entry point to redirect the traffic to different microservices and achieve the results. Let's get started. Okay, so I have created a project, uh, Eureka server, which is acting as a registry and a discovery for other microservices. So we are going to use the Spring Boot 3.5 version. And what dependencies you required in order to have a Eureka server? You need to have Spring Boot starterware and the Spring Cloud starter Eureka server component. So these two dependencies are sufficient, and you need to have the name of the application, the port number. So since I'm going to run it in local, so I'm defining the registry with Eureka fetch registry into false. So, and the annotation you need to define is at the rate of enable Eureka server. Okay, so let me start this application. So the application is started in port 8761. So let me refresh the browser. As you see, I have this server is started, time is 00, and here you don't see any instances currently registered with Eureka because we have just started the Eureka application only. Okay, and you can see the number of CPU, current memory usage, all those details available here in a single page. Okay, so now I'm gonna have two different microservices component. One is user service, another one is order service. So let me go into the user service. It's a plain Spring Boot application. Additionally, what I'm going to do, let me show you the additional dependencies that is required. So I have this starter web, Data JPA, and Mysql connector because I'm going to interact with the database. Here you need to have Eureka client because this service is going to be registered into the Eureka server. But in the first one, Eureka server, you have to use the Eureka server dependencies. When it comes to microservices components, you need to use the Eureka client. Okay, apart from that, I'm going to use Lombok, so for data, entities. Okay, so I have a basically designed here a single application, a user controller, where I'm going to add a new user to the database. I'm going to take the detail of the user with the help of these services. Okay, it's a repository. If you want to know how this CRUD operation is done in a Spring Boot, you can see my previous videos uploaded here. That will give you more detail about that. So apart from that, what you need to do in application YAML file, you need to define the server port, and then you need to define the application name. This is crucial because the name will be reflected in the Eureka server here, the instances detail, and the same name will be used to communicate with the other microservices. I'm going to show it in the order service. So these are all like Spring JPA configuration, and this is like my MySQL configuration. And after that, you need to define where is the Eureka server is hosted, where you want this application to be registered. That details you have to put it in the client component. So let me start this application. When you start this application, you need to see this should be automatically registered here. Okay, so the application is up and running. Let me refresh this. As you see, the user service is running and registered to the Eureka server. So similarly, I will go to the other component of this order service. So I have to communicate this order service to the user service as well. So this integration is there. I will show you. So for this, again, it's another Spring Boot application. Okay. Similarly, you need to define Eureka client here as well. And I'm using additionally a Feign client here just to make the interaction from one microservice to other microservice. Okay. So I have defined here controller, where you can see I'm just going to call the other microservice. So this is another REST controller of order controller application. When I hit this endpoint, I'm going to call this method from the user client, where I have defined Feign client. The name of the application is user service, which we have already defined here in the application YAML file, this username, right? So it will look up the registry details from the Eureka. Accordingly, it will go and perform that operation directly from that application. So you don't need to hard code the port number, the IP address of that server, because the that is where the Eureka server help us to maintain those service discoveries. Okay, and also we are going to define it in the API gateway, so that we are going to look after this. So application name, JPA detail, data source, and again you need to do the client registry for that. Okay, in order service as well. Okay, so the user service is running 8081, order service is running on 8082. Okay, so apart from that, I don't have much detail on the order service, so only the get API. So when the API gateway takes the input, user service is going to perform the user related operation, order service is going to perform the order related operation. But who placed the order, that detail we need it, right? So that time only I'm going to use the existing service of order user service to get that user detail. So here, when the order is placed here, I'm going to check who is the user. So get user has user service, this order service will go to user service of this controller, and this method will be used, this ID part we have defined here. So that will come here and it will take the data from the user service. Okay, so that we are going to see now. So let me start the order service application. So this is already started, and also it says it was discovered. So let me refresh the browser. As you see here, user service is running, order service is running. So now, so both user service, order service is connected to the database. Now we have to build the API gateway. So what is API gateway? So let's say, as a end user, I'm a front end developer. Okay, and I want to have my application to connected to our server. But you see, in real time, user service will be running in some IP address, order service will be running in different IP address. So similarly, when I have more than 100 of microservices, I may have 100 number of IP addresses. I don't want to maintain all those detail. Even if some application is crashed, with the help of containers, I can add a new image of that application, and again that will be deployed in a new service, new IP address. So maintaining those details, it's a complicated stuff. So that's why we are using API gateway. So API gateway is a simple application. So what dependencies you need in form file? You need to use Spring Cloud Starter Gateway, this is dependencies, and then again you need to register it with Eureka server, and you have to define the load balancer to distribute the traffics. Actuator is used to provide the health metrics of each application. On configuration wise, so you have to define the server port details, logging details. So this is where the actual gateway configuration takes place. This is for Eureka client registry. So I have defined what is the base path, what is the name of this application, and under the cloud gateway you have to define each microservices. So these routes are very important. As you see here, I have defined user service. This is LV, nothing but load balancer of this user service. And what are the predicates, entry points I'm going to have? So I have defined path is equal to users, which means if you go into the user service, the controller starts with the user. So all the user subdomains of these will come to this microservice. So similarly for orders, I have defined orders. If you go into this controller, you will see orders. So you can have dedicated predicates for the path forwarding, so that you have very clear cut of proper designed microservices. Even in future, when the API hits, you see orders, and when you see this users, you will easily identify, okay, I have these changes designed and developed into that microservices component, so that it will be easy to communicate. Okay, so only these details you need to define, and this general Spring Boot application. Now let me start this application. Make sure on server you need to define enable Eureka server, and on components there is no need of defining that Eureka server components. Okay, because you have defined every detail in application YAML file to do the registry. Only the microservices which communicates from A to B, you need to define the Feign client. With the help of Feign client, you can do the configuration. Now I have started this gateway application. Let me refresh the browser. Okay, so I can see API gateway is registered. Okay, so now you see here I have user service 8081, order service 8082, API gateway 8080. But all my input will be calling only this application. Okay, I'm not going to access directly 8081 or 8082, because API gateway is going to redirect that. Okay, so as you see here, localhost 8080 have this user. So let me try a new registration. Testing at gmail.com. So you see 8080 of users, so this will be communicating to this application. So let me set this. So I have processed this input with the help of Postman. This is the payload I have sent, and I got the response. Let me check in the database. So this detail got processed. So this is directly 80880. So this has come to API gateway. From that, it has identified what is the load balanced application based on the context path, this users. So the traffic has been distributed to the user service. From there, it has interacted with the database, and it was able to save the details. So the second endpoint, which I'm going to call the API gateway, will be calling the order service. Order service, before it places the order, it has to fetch the user details, and then for that it will call the user service. From user service, it has to check the database and return back that user detail, then place the order. Okay, so if you go to order controller, you will see I have to get the user with the help of Feign client for this service. After that, it will say order placed. What is the name of that user? We are going to print it out. Okay, so now I have got this ID. So this is the ID. So the same ID I will update here to, you see earlier it was Abdul Hakim. Now I have updated to testing. So let me process this at first. See, order 101 placed for user testing. Here also you see I'm using the 8080 port only, not 8081 or 8082, because these two are hard coded, but with the help of gateway it will distribute the traffic properly to the respective microservices. So likewise, you can get started for Spring Cloud microservices component. So this is totally designed with the help of Spring Boot framework and Spring Cloud components. So in this session, we have seen how the Eureka server works, how the Eureka clients are registered, and all this order service, user service, API gateways, how each things are getting interacted. And maybe in the upcoming sessions I'm going to cover how we can make the secure connection with the help of JWT, JSON uh, web tokens. And we can also see how the circuit breaker works. So there are a number of clouds components are there that we are going to see in the upcoming session. If you like this tutorial, please subscribe to my channel. And yeah, thank you.